Kalindi Joshi to introduce herself with the name of our organization and the title of her work. So over to you, Kalindi.
Thank you, Dr. Shobha. Thank you, Rekha, Ankur, and everybody for this opportunity and for conducting this event in the first place. I'm Kalindi. I work at Key Education Foundation, and I lead the parent engagement effort at my organization. So by that I mean that we make sure that we are always in touch with the parents of the children in the age group of 3 to 6 years in the schools that we are working with, which are both affordable private schools and government schools in KEF. And it's sort of my job to know what our parents are like, understanding the demography and understandanding their understanding of early childhood education and creating content for them.
Thank you, Kalindi. We will now. I'm now requesting Sheetal Sridhar to introduce herself, her organization, and the title of her paper, please.
Hi everyone, I'm Sheetal Sridhar. I work along with Kalindi at Key Education Foundation as well. At KEF, I'm the program manager for the CLAP project, which we will look more into during my presentation. The title of my paper is Leveraging Technology to Enable Early Childhood Education Beyond Schools. And I also have an MA in International Education and Development. I am extremely interested and excited and intrigued about the role of technology in learning and teaching.
Wonderful. That's so interesting, Sheetal. I now invite Bhamini Mehta, Dr. Bhamini Mehta, to introduce herself, her organization, and the title of her paper, and then continue with the paper presentation as she is the first paper presenter. Thank you, Bhamini.
Thank you, Dr. Bharat and Ms. Menon. Thanks to even all the participants for being here. And I'm Dr. Bhamini Mehta. I teach in the College of Home Science, that is Sir Whittledas Thackeray College of Home Science at SNDT Women's University. And I've been teaching since ages now, that's what I feel. But definitely, I'm not going to bug you with my lecture over here. I'll try to be as crisp as possible. I know we are running short of time, so I'll immediately go. I'll share the screen and go off to the presentation itself. Yes, of course, it's something to do with portfolios, which has now kind of become my most favorite subject. People think nowadays I'm more into portfolios and talking about children and their development where the ECC setting and assessment is concerned. Can you see my slide? Uh,
Yes.
Okay, fine. Basically, my title is something to do with holistic development, use of portfolios as a conducive tool in ECC for reshaping the child's profile. Basically, why did I get into this was I'm trying to understand that if in the ECC setup, we really want to assess children's growth and development, and we want to create a great profile for each and every child who are all different. We know that, and we do respect that. Then let's look at portfolios as a conducive tool to really understand what child development is all about and how to go ahead with their assessment. Portfolios, I'm not going to introduce them. I mean, more or less, we are ECC professionals. We know what a portfolio means, but just a little bit of refreshment. That is a collection of children's work, and it helps us to show their progress in learning. And that's the reason why I'm here today advocating portfolios where the ECC setup is concerned. Definitely, it helps a lot to understand the growth and development of children and their progress where the learning is concerned, which has really boggled most of us. I mean, when we are in the ECC setups, and we do understand the importance of a portfolio.
Bhamini,
Of
if we
course,
can interrupt you for a
yeah,
minute, could
yeah,
you
yeah,
put your slideshow,
yeah.
put it in slideshow mode? That will help. Yeah, thank you.
Is this fine? Thank you. Uh, Okay. So I'll jump on to my study. This was a study done by one of my master students from SNDT Women's University. And of course, I was guiding her, and I am sharing on her behalf as well because she could not be here because of some personal reasons. But basically, what we were trying to understand was what was the awareness and perception of preschool teachers where portfolios are concerned. And we wanted to also explore the use of portfolios among these preschool teachers, and whether they are willing to use if they are not using portfolios currently. And the participants were, of course, preschool teachers. There were 42 in all who gave their consent to participate in our study. And of course, no bowling was used to identify the sample. And because it was kind of during the pandemic period, these were Google forms that were created, and a questionnaire was created, but it was the data was collected through the Google forms. Now, jumping onto the demographic details of the participants. These were participants who had been teaching for um, more than 7 years. I mean, there was 40% of them who had been teaching for more than 7 years now. And when you look at the education level, it was varied. Had certificate courses in ECC. Some of them had just passed their 12th. Some of them had a graduation, even a PG diploma or post graduation, but only 66% of the participants had some form of ECC background. The rest, that is the 34%, did not have any ECC background. Let's look at the knowledge and awareness where portfolios are concerned. So when I look at the awareness of regarding portfolios, I mean, at least 31% said they did not have much clue about portfolios. So they had a little idea, but not much. So they said clearly, no, we are not much aware about portfolios. And where the use of portfolio is concerned, most of them say that it is supposed to be used for individual purpose only, and very few say that can be used for both. Then we asked them about the meaning of a portfolio. Uh, I mean, most of them say that is a collection of students' work, and this is used to evaluate these students for a specific purpose. Which, yes, I feel they're correct. But 21 of them felt that this is collection of students' work that helps us to determine the next grade readiness, which is great. I mean, we have really taught our students well. They know what a portfolio means. Uh, then, of course, there were a few who felt that these are methods that the teachers use in the classroom, and methods that they help or they may utilize to make students makes more sense out of what they are doing. At the second level, we looked at the perception.
5 minutes
And
are
what
up.
did we? Oh, yeah. So what did we find? So where perceptions are concerned, most of them felt that, of course, these are teachers' evaluations. So what should go into the portfolio? They felt, yeah, it's kind of teachers' evaluations, awards, certificates, artwork of children, best work of students, and only 29 of them say somewhere samples of students' work. But they, I think most of them even said that it was artwork and best work. So not a true picture of the progress. Knowledge required by teacher, uh, awareness of the characteristics of children. Yes, so great. They knew that you have to know in order to evaluate a portfolio. I have to know the characteristic traits of children of that specific age group, and of course the personal learning needs. What are the advantages of portfolio assessment? And they said yes, it allows students, parents, and teachers to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses. And of course, it also helps to get information on specific domains of development, certain different areas where development is concerned. And yes, also students' abilities on specific tasks. So, um, bang on, they somewhere had much I mean idea about what a portfolio is. However, it's a little hazy when you look at their overall picture. So, um, where portfolio assessment is concerned, they felt, even again, where the characteristic traits of a portfolio is concerned, they said it doesn't allow, students' choice. So these portfolios are very weird. I mean, they don't give you a very comprehensive picture, but other forms of assessment do give you. So these are only two of them who said that. But 31 said they reveal growth and development, which is great again. And 21 of them felt that they offer opportunity to reflect one's learning. However, I think we need to address the 5 and the 2 also somewhere, because There are people who have these ideas. Now, let's look at the practice quickly. And when we went to use of portfolios by teachers, of course, there were very, very few, like 15 of them said, yes, we do use portfolios. And some of them said sometimes. So, well, we understand what the sometimes means. And many of them said that we don't use the term portfolio, but we have different terms which we use when we
One more
record.
minute to go.
Yeah, sorry, when we record children's work. And this is something to do with the content. There is collection of students' individual works, collection of best samples, student evaluation by teachers, collection of students' best work. So again, coming back to square one, what are portfolios? And they felt, yes, portfolios are useful. Well, but again, look at the numbers. It's only somewhere about 29 of them saying they are useful. So, uh, well, in the current study, what I'm trying to now conclude is basically when you look at teachers, of course, they were aware, but there was this complete hazy picture of what a portfolio actually is. And many of them were aware about portfolios, but when you look at their ideas in terms of what actually a portfolio is, you feel, oh, we need to go back and do a lot of work here in this area. So, with this, I'll conclude my session and thank you for being attentive listeners. And I hope I have been able to stick to the uh, needed time frame. So, thank you so much. I
Thank you,
hope I've stopped
Bhavani.
sharing. Yeah.
Yeah, over to you, Shobha.
One minute. I'm not able to
Or
stop.
you'll have to unmute.
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
not able to stop the screen
Ankur,
share.
can you support us there?
Just a second.
Yeah.
Can you do that for me, Mr. Uncle?
In the meantime, Kalindi and Sheetal, if you have an appreciative comment
Uh,
or clarification.
actually, actually, yeah, Bhamini ma'am is sharing her screen, so I will not be able to do any additions on her screen. She'll have to
Yeah,
do
I
the
think if I leave
additions.
stage, then probably my screen share will be. Then I'll come join back.
You are on stage.
Yeah, so I'll leave the stage so.
Okay, I'm removing you. Yeah, I've removed you. Yeah, and I will add her. Oh, but the stage, it just end page. Can you do end page, Bhamini? Exit, yeah. Okay. Uh, while Bhamini is going to figure that out, let's go ahead. Shobha, you have to unmute uh, the or maybe reload your page. Maybe it is not showing up for you. In the meantime, I will ask. There is a question by Joan. Do we do use it in our school and we find it very useful is one of the point of view that Jonah, correct if I'm spelling you correctly,
Yeah.
she has an observation there. Yeah, go ahead, Shobha.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I would like to compliment Bhamini on a very relevant and important aspect of assessment of children and their development and growth. It is really a very rich contribution when we are trying to, look at a child's portfolio and understand each child's unique, areas of development and the way they will, they display their talents. So I'd really like to compliment you on the on the research that you have done. And yes, I think personally also, looking at the interactions I've had with teachers in schools, they do need a very detailed level workshop or training as to what is a portfolio, what can be included, and what are the values of using a portfolio in preschool centers. So thank you for that, Bhamini. Would anyone else like to add? Otherwise, we can go to the next presenter. Okay, I think let's move on to Sheetal, who is going to be the second presenter. Over to you, Sheetal.
Uh, Shobha, I think
Yes,
Kalindi was trying to say something.
yes,
Uh,
Kalindi. I'm
yeah,
so
and
sorry.
I have a
Would just wanted to echo Dr. Shobha's comments, because portfolios is something that we also recommend to schools as a way to, you know, observe children's growth and their progress, and even share the same thing with parents. But we do realize the teachers' inhibitions in actually implementing it, because they can't visualize how it will look in their classrooms. So I agree with what Shobha ma'am said, and really loved the presentation that Bhamini ma'am gave.
Thank you, Kalindi.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Sheetal, over to you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sheetal Sridhar. I will be, through my presentation, talking more about leveraging technology to enable early childhood education beyond schools. Having an early start to learning, I think we all agree that this is absolutely important, and there's been a lot of light and attention to the importance of children having an early start at the right age to learning itself. And again, with this, right? So, along with a lot of age specific milestones that parents want their children to meet, school going is an important one. While a lot of children get this access to quality early learning at the right age, some are also lucky enough to have that intervention from their parents at home before they step into their first school. Parents are already tracking their development, parents are also pushing for learning while they're at home. However, this is not the case for a lot of other children across the world. Many of our children even enter school at the age of 6, and they are not school ready at this point of time, and they are put into grade 1 at the beginning itself. And research also shows that disadvantaged communities, children from disadvantaged communities, have a much lesser chance at quality early childhood education. Now, while not going to school itself is one of the main reasons that can have repercussions on their lives later on, another important factor that also helps determine their scope or exposure to learning itself is the involvement of parents from early on. Research again proves that parent engagement or the engagement of any involvement of any one family member in a program helps determine the success of that program itself. It promotes effective learning and also has a long term impact on the child involved in that program. It has a positive impact on the performance in school because of how it looks at holistic development, and it also helps achieve the intended development outcomes of the program more effectively. Now, but when I speak about children not having an early start to learning or parents not being engaged sometimes, there are some problem statements that we have to look at, and I'd like to call that out. One is parents from disadvantaged communities, especially, they're not directly involved in the learning of their children, and there's a lot of expectation and over reliance on the school and the teacher to take care of the learning needs of their children. And along with this, parents are also not aware of what they need to be tracking in when we speak about developmental goals in their children in the early years. They don't know what their child should be able to do at a specific age. And in addition to this, if a parent is also engaged and wants to promote or contribute to the learning of their child, most often than not, they are not well equipped to engage their children in meaningful learning activities or even conversations at home. Now, as an organization, we focused a lot about parents being important stakeholders in the holistic development of their children. But I think we all agree when I say that in the COVID context, there was a huge, heavy setback, right? All of us realized, parents especially realized, that there's heavy reliance on teachers when it comes to learning of their children. But parents ended up being the primary caregivers, with children spending all of their time at home. And parents, we realized we want to view them and give them the benefit of doubt and say parents can be primary educators for their children if they're provided with the right kind of resources and support. So this was our very first intervention at the beginning of the pandemic, which is the home learning program. We did this via WhatsApp through weekly activities that we shared to parents in the form of posters, videos in 3 different languages. Parents could use resources to conduct activities at home. We also had regular webinars and focused videos to build awareness in parents. We realized across 2 different units that the parent engagement had increased. They were more responsive. They were engaging actively in the activities or the content itself that we were sharing with them. And through this intervention, we were able to reach over 2,400 children between 2020 and 2022. I'd really like to call this out that our biggest takeaway from this was that parents are willing to engage irrespective of their financial or academic background, right? Parents are willing to engage and dedicate their time for a virtual learning program if they know that this would lead towards their child's development. However, it's also very important for us to keep in mind that we need to keep some barriers in mind and meet those challenges and barriers, because technology is everywhere across the world. Technology is heavily brought into the education space of late, but we really need to think about whether technology is being introduced in the right manner, or if our target audience has even access to this technology. And in addressing some of these challenges, right, is it accessible? Can my target audience actually use this? Or is it cost effective? If I'm actually introducing this product my target audience, will they have to spend a lot of money, one, in even procuring this product, or even in sustaining the usage of it in the long run? And I think the third and most important again is, does it address existing context specific barriers? Now, I think when we were thinking about this and how to meet some of these challenges, I think WhatsApp as a platform really stood out to us because it's one at scale tool for two-way communication. It is cost effective. It addresses language and time barriers. It allows us to share content in more than 3 to 4 different languages. And it allows to also
5 minutes
compensate
up.
for the time barriers. Yeah, thank you. And because you can have self-paced programs on the platform, it supports audio-visual resources to make the content more engaging. And needless to say, WhatsApp is widely used across the world, India being one of the highest users of WhatsApp with 487 million users. And this is when, while brainstorming, while exploring WhatsApp as a platform, we came up with the CLAP project. CLAP project is Children Learning Assisted by Parents. It's a WhatsApp-based program that helps parents engage with children by following very simple processes. They can register, access content, conduct activities, answer simple assessment questions, and get a report. It's available for different content in English, early math, speaking and listening, and also in 3 different languages, English, Hindi, and Kannada. This was introduced with the goal of reducing learning deficit cost due to COVID-19. Now, there's no dearth of technology resources across the world. India itself has over 4,500 technology products that cater to the needs of teachers and students. And when we were trying to measure the impact or the effectiveness of CLAP itself, we came across the Tulna Tech standards, which is a partnership between the education tech team at IIT Bombay as well as Central Square Foundation. And we were happy to know that CLAP meets over 80% of these standards that is outlined by Tulna under 3 different categories: content quality, pedagogical alignment, and technology and design. Now, further, we were continuously measuring impact in terms of the onboarding data we had, how users are engaging on the platform, and how the learning is happening. We've been able to reach over 1,600 parents and 1,800 children, and 100 of our users have proudly claimed their certificates after completing the program as well. Now, where do we see this learning going, and what do we do now that children are coming back to school? We wanted to now shift towards engaging parents in the learning of their child, irrespective of the pandemic, irrespective of the situation outside. How can we make our program sustainable? How can we push for parental engagement, irrespective of whether children are going back to school or not? And now that children are coming back to school and they're transitioning back to school, we wanted to pitch this with one of our existing programs already. We already have parents engaging with worksheets at home with their children. So we wanted to integrate technology to make it all the more effective. So CLAP has content that helps parents complete these worksheets at home with audio-visual resources to make it more effective. We have our Helping Hands videos, which covers a variety of topics to increase the parental awareness of early childhood education and holistic development, and they can track their report of their children as they're doing that. The way forward, I think it's important for every technology tool to be able to easily plug in into different contexts while also trying to be at scale and reach more audience. Our goal is still to improve parent-child interactions and increase their awareness on early childhood education and holistic development. And we plan to do so by plugging our product in through different institutions, schools, and community at large. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sheetal. That was a very, very interesting project and really inspired by your project CLAP. and the impact that it has made. Yes, would the other presenters like to add on their comments?
Can I add, Dr. Bharat? Yeah, I think lab, the program is excellent.
Bhamini, you're on mute.
I have unmuted myself. Can you hear
I
me?
can I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so I was just saying that definitely the program is excellent, and I mean, they've actually made efforts which we just talk about and we try to propagate, but they've actually done it. I had just a small little suggestion. I mean, I think in India with the
Uh,
joint family systems, grandparents are an integral part of any family. So in future, would you like to really consider their role as well and think of how you can really involve them also in the learning process?
oh,
With
I'm
that,
sorry. Ankur, please help me. I'm not able to hear what is
we
being said. Sorry.
Just a second. Just a second. Yeah, ma'am. Please speak once.
Okay.
Now can you hear us?
Hello.
She's unable
Can
to
you all
hear
hear
us.
me? Am I audible?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You are
So
audible.
I can't seem to hear. Bhamini, please say something.
Bhamini ma'am is on mute,
can
I
you hear me?
guess.
No, I
Yeah.
Can you hear
can't
me
hear.
now?
Ankur,
No?
I can't hear
Oh,
what
oh,
is
oh,
being
oh, oh.
said. Sorry.
Okay. So apart from Shobha ma'am, is everybody able to hear Bhamini ma'am? Yeah.
Okay, now
Yes,
Yeah.
can you all hear me? But I can't hear you.
we
I'm
all
so
can
Okay.
sorry
hear you.
about this
Uh,
glitch. Rekha, you can hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. I can hear you. So you can see me and my
But I
nod.
can't
That's
hear
why.
you.
Yeah. So maybe you can log
I'm
out
so
and log
sorry.
in.
yeah.
Log
Requesting
out.
Shobha ma'am to please log out and just log in once again.
Yeah. I'll
Ankur, can
write.
you help us, please?
Yeah. We'll write it
Ma'am,
in the chat. Let me
yeah,
write her.
you
Write
need to
her.
log out from your end itself only, ma'am.
Okay.
Shobha, can you unmute and can you hear us? No, you can't hear.
Shobha ma'am, you are on mute.
But she can't hear us. The problem is she can't hear us.
Ma'am,
Uh,
could you please put your message on the chat box?
okay, Shobha, you can. Shobha, unmute and okay.
Okay, so I'm keeping Shobha ma'am on this stage, and meanwhile,
I
I'm
just removed her, Ankur, and so let me
yeah
just.
requesting Sheetal ma'am and Kalinde ma'am. Could you please come down? I'll put you on stage once again.
Shobha has just left Ankur, and probably she's trying to log in again.
Okay.
In the meantime, I think we can add Kalindi and
Yeah. Sure.
Seetan. Yeah.
I'm able to hear Rekha ma'am. I'm able to hear Bhamini ma'am. Kalindi ma'am, you are on mute. Could you please speak something so that I?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes,
And Sheetal was
Sheetal.
there.
Just a second.
Um,
Just a second. No, I don't think so. Yeah, she's here. She's here. Yeah, Sheetal ma'am, could you please speak something so that we can hear you?
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
and you can
Can
hear
somebody
us?
say something?
You can hear us?
Rekha?
We are speaking.
No,
Okay. Yeah. So I
I
think
can't
maybe
hear.
you
So
have
it's
to
okay,
reload.
Rekha, you carry on. Please start. Let's begin with
Okay.
Kalindi's
So
presentation.
Bhamini,
I'm so
yeah.
sorry about
So
this glitch.
Bhamini was,
I will go back and
yeah,
join
it's
again,
okay.
okay?
Sure. Um, so Bhamini, you were saying something, and that's when we had to cut you off. So please go
Yeah, no,
ahead
no.
and complete.
I was just trying to say that grandparents are important, and some way programs should definitely take them into consideration. So that's my point. Thank you.
Yeah, so that was an input given to you, Sheetal, from Bhamini, and the others can post their questions in the question and answer blog, or even post it in the chat, whichever is suitable for them. We'll take it at the end. For now, we'll proceed to the next speaker, who is Kalindi. Please go ahead, Kalindi.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Okay, so I'll summarize our paper. So the title of the paper was Parent Engagement Framework for Preschools and how it can be a guide to practices, tools, and resources for schools. We were the two authors, myself and my colleague Sneha, who's not able to join us, who has in fact just started on her maternity leave. So while we are summarizing this parent engagement framework, she's actually starting her journey as a parent. So I'll just move forward, and I'd just like to spend a minute on what we actually mean by a parent engagement framework and why we call it as a solution. So if we look at the analogy of a bookshelf, right? I mean, when we look at a bookshelf, you can take it from one room to another. You can use it for different kinds of books, whether it is for children, for or different genres of books, and even different languages. So the utility of the structure is in the fact that it can be reused for different contexts, and that's what we are trying to do with our parent engagement framework. So we've created a structure which we have been able to use effectively after much learning, in fact, even failures and learning over the course of the last 4 years. And we believe that educational institutions can use that framework to engage effectively with the parents of their communities. Now the other part, right? Why is it important for schools and preschools, particularly, to engage with parents? And these are some of the points that come out in research. But at the same time, at least us, the audience in this session, we have an idea about this. We know all this from the context of our work. But here's the question: do our partners, our stakeholders, and our beneficiaries know this? Because I was reflecting on my own experiences as a parent and then as an early educator. Um, uh, when my daughter was born, when I enrolled her in a school, at that time I did not have. I maybe had just a vague idea about what I wanted from her school, but I did not even know that there was a research behind it, and maybe some of my ideas were wrong or were not contextual anymore. So our this is our drive, our motivation for engaging with parents, that if we can give them the information and tell them that it is backed by research and help them understand, maybe they will ask the right things of the school and ease the burden on the schools and the early educators. So with that in mind, I'll now move forward and explain what we mean by our structure itself. So the first thing that we do when we did when we started our parent engagement program is we identified what are the problems that we must address. And how did we do it? We engaged in dialogues with our end users, with the parents actually. We took their feedback and we asked them the reasons for it. And we asked them open-ended questions about their perceptions and their experiences, and even as in their experiences in their childhood, and what they feel about their children's preschools, about what the teachers are doing, what the schools are doing, and how they feel about activity based and play based learning. uh, these are some of the problem statements that we found. I'll some of the problem statements are actually common with what Sheetal was also mentioning in her paper, because after all, we are in the same organization working with the same parents. But what we found was parents, I mean, they were asking for very rigorous homework. They were insisting on rote-based practices. They were actually rejecting activity-based and play-based learning in schools. And there was also a lot of finger pointing between schools and parents. Schools were blaming parents for issues like absenteeism or behavioral challenges, and parents were blaming teachers for their children not showing the results that parents expected children to show. um, so based on the problem statements, what we then went to were the goals. What are the goals that will fix these problems? And here we tried to identify the root cause behind the problems, and also the emotions behind the problems. So the problems that we were talking about in terms of parents having unreasonable expectations from their child, we realized that parents don't know that there is a developmental milestones, age appropriate developmental milestones that children will attain. And their parents expectations from the children were largely based on what other schools are providing, or what other children of the same age group are able to do, without being able to process that maybe those goals are not real, and they are not really benefiting the children. And the other thing that we tried to do was understand the emotion. And we realized a lot of parents were feeling insecure about their own lives, that I have not gone to a school, or I have not gone to a private school, so I don't know what to teach my child, or I don't know how to teach my child. So there was a lot of these feelings of insecurity, competitiveness, and ignorance that came through when we had these deep dialogues with parents. And what we defined as goals for our interventions were these three: that we should somehow increase the awareness of the parent towards holistic development in the early years. We wanted to improve the quality of the parent school relationship, so that there was more respect between these two identities, and these two entities, and they could both align together towards the benefit of the child. And finally, we wanted to improve the quality of parent child interactions, so that for the child, the learning environment, the growing environment is joyful, it's safe, and it's actually conducive to a holistic development. Then once we had our
Thank you,
goals
Swetha.
defined, sure. Once we had our goals defined, we went into the next step of what do we need to do to achieve those goals. And for that, we tried to identify the knowledge, skill, or mindset that will help in achieving the goals. We mapped each goals to activities, and even to the actors who need to participate. So if it was the parent, or the school, or the teacher, or the school leader. And once we did this mapping, it also helped us in designing the required content, as well as the interaction or the spaces for our parent engagement program. Um, this is what we came up with. For increasing awareness of the parent, we had to build knowledge of the parents on child development. We had to provide resources to the parents, so they were enabled to actually conduct these age appropriate activities. And similarly, for quality of parent child interactions and quality of parent school relationships, we identified these actions that we had to do, so that the goals could be achieved, and so that the problem statements that we had identified could be resolved. Then we looked into what are our opportunities to reach the goals. And this we did by identifying what could be the most effective way of disseminating our information or imparting skills. Should we do it through some content, some videos, or some workshops, or some worksheets, or should we do it through some spaces? So effective parent teacher meetings, or having workshops in schools, etc. We planned the content keeping our end stakeholder in mind, as in, if the primary actor for this information, or primary recipient for this information, had to be the parent, teacher, or school leader, then we created resources that could be reused. So even if it was a workshop, we made sure that it could be conducted in multiple languages: English, Hindi, and Kannada. We created videos in these three languages. And finally, we also made sure that we could balance scale and effectiveness. So, what I mean by this is, for example, a video can be used at scale. But if I only rely on a video to give some information to parents, it may not be very effective because there's no room for dialogue. So we made sure that wherever a video is needed, it is supplemented with a workshop or even a webinar in the last 2 years. Or even if it's an example of a resource that we want to give to parents, then can it be something that can be done over a course of time, multiple times during the academic year or things like that. So
Thank you.
our activities, sure, I'll just wrap up. Our activities were what was depicted in the picture here. And we also defined the MNE, the monitoring and evaluation for our outcome, that how will we actually measure the outcome of our activities. So we defined it by identifying short-term and long-term outcomes for each goal, and then designing the tools, whether it was surveys or some observation rubrics or any focus group discussions or assessments to actually measure the indicators. Um, all of this is actually, I mean, this is how it all comes together once we have identified our problem statements and goals and actions, and then our the opportunities that we were talking about, our activities and MNE becomes the extension to implement it and to measure what we have actually created for parents. This is all outlined and detailed even in the paper. So, if there are any thoughts on what is the actual content that we created, those are actually linked in the paper itself. So, in the interest of time, then I'll stop now and then see if there are any questions.
Shubha, you'll have to unmute.
Thank you so much. That was a very, very comprehensive presentation, and with the actual process of how you're engaging the parents. Very insightful, and just talks about the wonderful quality of the work that you're doing at your organization. Because I especially am impressed, because right from looking at the difficulties that what are their issues, and to trying to bring together the two partners in the process of education, that is parents and school, and then developing short term long term goals, and also content to achieve, and finally assessing that, very very comprehensive and meaningful. So thank you so much for that, Kalindi. There is one question here by Ira Joshi, who talks about identifying the emotions. This is an integral part of trying to understand where the parents are coming from and when they have certain expectations for their children. So if you would please answer that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree, because I mean, see, what we realized was if the parents are not aware of any, I mean, this basic information, then it's not right for us or to schools to reprimand parents and blame them, because I mean they just don't know better. So it's rather a responsibility for educational institutions to give that information to parents so that they can make better choices. Um, did
There's
we
one
face
more.
any challenges? Yeah, we continue to face challenges, and that also shows up in our MNE era in terms of there's always that gap between, as in we don't know if the parents have are actually putting it in practice or not, because from their feedback maybe we can see if they have attended a workshop, or when we send any Google survey forms, we know that what they like, whether they liked it or not, or what they understood it. But eventually we don't know what they are practicing, and especially in the last 2 years in COVID lockdowns and all, that has been a big challenge.
I am sorry, I have to step in now. We
Sure.
would like to continue the discussion, and I would actually like to hear even Sheetal's version because similar topic. And so wonderful discussions and really good, great work. Much needed though, and the pandemic has given us a chance to go deep dive into these subjects which otherwise were there in back of our mind, but didn't have the it didn't come into highlight. I would request the participants who are listening to us to continue posting the questions, and we shall take it up in the publications, and we'll get Sheetal, Kalindi, and Bhamini to answer them for us, and so you would know more in detail. The workshop people are waiting for us to vacate the stage, and so that they can come on start the session. So thank you, everybody. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thank you so much, Sheetal, Kalindi, and Bhamini. Wonderful presentations, interesting work. It was a real pleasure to listen to you all. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.